Hi everyone, this video is a full-length alchemical exploration of Snow White in relation to the inner alchemy and sacred secretion process in the body. I did do a 1-minute YouTube short of this a little while ago and some of you had some questions, so let's look at this in a little more depth. So in alchemical teachings, progress along the spiritual path is sometimes referred to as the great work. And the great work has 3 major aspects: nigredo, albedo, and rubedo. And these 3 aspects are illustrated quite clearly actually in Snow White's appearance. So Snow White's hair, as black as ebony, signifies nigredo, the black phase. Her skin, as white as snow, refers to albedo, which is the white phase of the great work. And her lips, as red as a rose, symbolize rubedo, which is the red phase of the great work. So let's take a look at each of these 3 aspects a little more closely. So nigredo, blackness, is the lesser work, and the great work begins with this phase, which is parallel to the lead of alchemical allegory. Lead is the base substance that has to be transmuted into gold during spiritual awakening. Both lead and nigredo are associated with what's known as first matter or prima materia. According to sages and mystics, first matter is protoplasm, also known as cytoplasm, which is the foundational substance that all of the billions of cells of our body emerge out of. And you might know from previous videos that it's made of the 4 basic elements: nitrogen, symbolizing fire, oxygen symbolizing air, hydrogen symbolizing water, and carbon symbolizing earth. That is what protoplasm or prima materia is comprised of. So first matter is also parallel with what's known as soma, and it's said to be the most subtle substance in the body, and it's easily influenced by our thoughts, our emotions, our words, what we're influenced by, and of course our habits as well. Entering nigredo initiates the calcination process of soma or of lead. Entering nigredo initiates the calcination process of soma or of lead, eliminating energies and toxins that prevent spiritual growth and cellular regeneration. Nigredo can be likened to a point of realization or a point of repentance, the aha moment that acts as a catalyst to realign with our highest good. You could even say it's the rock bottom turning point because there's nowhere else to go. Nigredo can be a very powerful stage, as it often signifies a point in one's life where a spiritual evolution is necessary or imminent. More often than not, the person realizes that the material plane just can't provide the fulfillment that they thought they were looking for. And so they begin to look inside themselves, or they look for higher spiritual truth. And after this initial nigredo phase comes the second aspect called albedo, which is the whiteness. And other symbols that are associated with this phase are salt, which aligns to the mineral body. So like the next layer of our manifestation. It's also sometimes called rosa alba, as in the white rose of the body. And the alchemical white rose is related to Luna, to the moon. Albedo represents the purification and cleansing phase, where the base substance, previously subjected to the blackness of nigredo, begins its transformation towards purity and towards spiritual enlightenment. In the progression from nigredo to albedo, the lead, or the prima materia, or the base substance, begins its journey to transmuting into silver. This symbolizes the emergence of light and purity from the darkness and chaos of the previous stage. So we're starting to align. It's when you start to notice spiritual truths and you start to let some of the old stuff just dissolve and wash away as more spirit and more truth comes into you. In this stage, the first matter undergoes a process of refinement. The protoplasm, the foundational substance from which all those cells emerge, now starts to embody higher vibrational frequencies. It's a natural building process, fueled by the intelligence of spirit, true source love. And this phase is marked by the eliminations of impurities as the body's soma, again, which is influenced by thoughts, emotions, and habits and words, it begins to resonate with a higher frequency, reflecting purity and reflecting higher spiritual truth and knowingness. And as we resonate with higher frequencies, they become accessible for us to view, for us to feel, for us to hear with the spiritual ear as well. And it gives us immense spiritual clarity. Knowing what our yeses are, knowing what our nos are, very powerful stuff. The calcination process initiated in nigredo continues into albedo, eliminating, like I said, residual energies and toxins and allowing cellular regeneration and repair and, of course, spiritual awakening. So in summary, albedo represents the phase of purification and spiritual renewal that follows that darker, more introspective stage of nigredo. And the final phase of the great work is called rubedo, which is the redness. And rubedo represents the final integration and perfection of the soul and the spirit, where the base substance, having been purified and cleansed, reaches its ultimate state of wholeness, of purification, of being crystallized or cleared or purified. In the progression from albedo to rubedo, the silver of the purified lead transforms into gold, lead into gold, symbolizing the attainment of the highest spiritual state. And this phase signifies the realization of the true self and the manifestation of our spiritual perfection. And during rubedo, the integration of spirit and matter is completed. The physical body, mind, and spirit are unified into perfect balance, reflecting the true divine nature of the cosmos, which will then begin to appear in our outer worlds as well. The redness of rubedo is often associated with the red elixir, or the elixir of life, which symbolizes the rejuvenation and eternal vitality of the soul. The elixir represents the life force, the Kundalini that has been fully awakened and is now in perfect harmony with the cosmic energy. In rubedo, the seeker is said to wear the the crown of enlightenment, which symbolizes the attainment of ultimate wisdom and spiritual power, or the Kundalini rising into the crown chakra, the Saraswara. In the story of Snow White, of course, this can be seen with her own attainment of the crown at the royal castle, which is, of course, situated, again, like all Disney castles, at the head of the kingdom, the top of the kingdom, which is, of course, an allegory for the temple body. And in Sikh Dharma, as I said in the video for Cinderella, the 10th gate in Sikh Dharma, located at the crown chakra, is actually known as the castle of the beloved. So it's a very literal symbol. The castle of the beloved is the crown chakra, is the 10th gate in Sikhism. It's very interesting. This phase is characterized by a profound sense of peace, joy, and unity with all of creation. And the soul is now fully realized to its purpose and its potential. Rubedo is often described as the divine marriage or the mystical union. It could be their kiss when he brings her back to life, where the masculine and feminine aspects of the self are united in perfect harmony. And this union represents the balance of the opposite energies within us and the realization of our wholeness, of our true self. And rubedo signifies the completion of the great work. So that marriage is like, you know, that final climax moment where the journey of transformation is fulfilled, where the pineal and the pituitary resonate in harmony and the biochemicals of enlightenment are released. We feel warm, tingling, loving sensations all over our body, and we look outside and the sky looks more blue, or the trees look more green, or people seem more happy around you and you feel more happy in yourself. Like the knock-on effects of the inner and outer reflections of what's happening inside you and then seeing it back in your world is just like absolutely dramatic. Understanding that as within, so without is one of the most powerful moments of realization that I personally ever had, that like working on myself was going to have a knock-on effect throughout my life. Like, it's just such a massive blessing that I can't ever give enough thanks for or describe the magic of that. And in the story, as well as is available in our lives, Snow White gets her happily ever after, which is a parallel to what the yogis call Nirbi Kalpa. Nirbi Kalpa means immortal bliss, happily ever after. So these three phases that are also symbolized by the narrative arc of the story, Snow White overcomes the queen. She overcomes the adverse energy through the great work, and so she can ascend to the castle of the beloved, to the 10th gate crown chakra alchemical wedding union. And the refining of protoplasm, of soma, of pre-materia is also parallel to the preserving and raising of the Christ oil, the sacred secretion. Christ oil is also parallel to soma, to prima materia. As the vital fluids, so the CSF and lymph of the body, are purified and revitalized, the Christic body is activated again, as within, so without as well. So everything that you're experiencing shifts. During this process, the body is remineralized. The salts change. The molecules, the cell salts change, remineralized, meaning that the mineral balance of the body is optimized. This paves the way for melatonin upgrades and, like I said, the release of the biochemicals of enlightenment into the body, the changing of the frequency, us being able to attract and resonate with higher frequencies. The 7 chakras of the body and their coinciding endocrine glands are implicated in this remineralization, in this mineralizing, cleansing and revitalizing alchemical process, this transformation that's happening on a literal physiological level to every single cell of our body as we go through this process. So since the dwarfs featured in the story of Snow White are mineral miners, we can easily draw a parallel between them and the 7 centers of the body. The secretions of those endocrine glands at each chakra point are paramount to the transformation of our biochemical picture or our alchemical state. In the same way that these miraculous autonomic centers mineralize, nurture and condition the body, the 7 dwarfs nurture and teach Snow White, eventually helping her to defeat the evil queen or the degenerating force in the body, mind, soul and spirit. Mineral salts or cell salts are generators and regenerators in the body. They're a life source. Chakras literally mineralize the body toward soul ascension. This is the physiological alchemy of ascension that we're talking about, and each dwarf appears to offer a clear association to a different chakra. At the base we have sleepy, which parallels dormant Kundalini energy in the root plexus or the coccygeal body. Then the self-aware, very meek, not so sure of himself, bashful, appears to of course represent the sacral plexus. Then interestingly, solar plexus imbalances are linked with anger. So this could definitely be an inspiration for Grumpy, for the character, the lovable character of Grumpy. And of course, the heart center with its loving and devotional secretions of oxytocin, where the divine spark is as well, could be associated with the loving Dopey. I love how he keeps running back around trying to get another kiss from Snow White. And throat chakra imbalances are linked to coughs and sneezes. So it's very probable that Sneezy represents this dynamic center. Then we have the brow, of course connected to our wisdom and seership. And this relates to the characteristics that dock in bodies. And then lastly we have the crown with its euphoric, blissful secretions where, you know, you're transcending everything and just feeling great in yourself. And, you know, that probably does relate to Happy, the happy man, as he calls himself. And there are a lot more spiritual symbols as well represented in the narrative and characters of Snow White. Probably far too many to unpack here in proper detail without making this video seriously long-winded. Honestly, there are so many symbols when I was watching it, I just didn't even know where to begin. So I wanted to just hone in on some of the most important ones, some of the key ones that are really easy to understand and apply to ourselves. So I'll just run through a few more. So the evil queen, as we said, symbolizes the degenerating forces of nature in the body. And, You know, the Queen wishes to kill Snow White and to have her heart removed, very specific. And this highlights the heart's prominent role in the alchemy of ascension that we've talked about many times. Heart expansions activated through loving devotion, through bhakti, promote oxytocin secretions by the pituitary, which consequently stimulates the pineal to upgrade melatonin into DMT, pinoline, luciferin, and all the other wonderful biochemicals of enlightenment that we've talked about in the God Design, in the Cell of Life, and more recently in the full guide to the sacred secretion, Kundalini energy, and the monthly seed. And the Queen is desperate to control her reality in the name of vanity. Like, vanity is her number one motivation, which comes from a distorted ego, which comes from imbalanced alchemy, which comes from the suppression of trauma, from not having healing, from not realizing who we really are or where we should be. She's willing to promote her own grandeur at any cost and is clearly comfortable in dabbling with the dark arts. So we know that she just represents the degeneration of the body, mind, soul, and spirit. Then we have Prince Charming, who we can easily associate with the divine masculine, and we can associate him with the force in the crown chakra, being that he lives at the top of the kingdom. And the divine feminine is always magnetized towards the divine masculine, whichever position you decide to put them in the body. Some people put the feminine at the bottom, others put the feminine at the top, or vice versa, but whichever way around that specific teaching that you're looking at locates it, these two forces are always magnetized towards each other, no matter what. Then we have the wishing well, which we see at the beginning of the movie where she's singing into. And the well, you know, it can be seen as a picture of the waters of the whole body, or the vital fluids of the whole body. And it's at the beginning of the story, and, you know, the waters are an entry point for the transmutations and transformations to occur in the body. So that could very well be a nod to that aspect of our inner alchemy. And then we have the wicked queen tempting Snow White with the apple. And this is very reminiscent of the biblical snake that tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden. And when she prepares the apple, the queen says, "Let the power of sleeping death seep through." And of course, Snow White enters a sleeping death when she does take a bite, you know, when she does give in to that charm and tempting lure of the ever vain evil queen. And the apple's shape is reminiscent of the body's electromagnetic torus field, which is broken when Snow White falls for the queen's deception and takes a bite, thus rendering her unconscious, because the circuit of her body has been tripped or broken by the evil queen's spell. At their core, apples also contain the 5-pointed pentagram, a symbol associated with life, health, creation, and generation when it's upright, and something else when it's tipped upside down. So the fact that the queen poisons the apple shows the reversal or the inversion of this symbol, making it signify death, dis-ease, and degeneration instead of what it would normally symbolize in its upright state. The sleeping death is a symbol of the material veil of sense consciousness. It separates us as individuals from unity consciousness, from seeing our oneness with all that is, and from seeing our origin in true source love. It's the illusion of suffering and mortality. And the anecdote for the sleeping death is, of course, true love's kiss, symbolizing the cross, the union or wedding with the divine masculine, the regeneration of the body system, as Soma and Agni, or water and fire, come back together to recreate, to reignite the circuit, the electromagnetic field of 3D manifest life. Now, I know this story has been explored so many times, so I bet you have your own theories and nuggets of wisdom as well. So I look forward very much to reading those in the comments. And thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. As always, the links to my books, courses, and other resources can be found in the description box below this video. So may divine love manifest itself in you all. Always. And in all ways. Namaste.